There's a new feature with CSS that I've been waiting for, and it's finally getting wide adoption across browsers. So where do we find out about all these new features? How do I stay on top of this stuff? Well, I was going to say the state of CSS, but for some reason, there we go. So the state of CSS is one of the places that I look for new features that are evolving in CSS. It's a great place to just learn about other people and how people in the community are getting on board with new features, what their level of expertise is with those features. For some reason, State of CSS survey is not coming up today. I don't know what happened to it. We'll have to take a look later, see if we can find that. But this State of CSS has always been a great place to find that sort of information. And there's usually really good links in there to something like Can I Use? And if we look at Can I Use and the feature that we're going to talk about today called Color Mix, you'll see that this is now widely supported across all the major browsers. We've got green lights here on Chrome, Edge, Safari, Firefox, and Opera. And then, of course, Chrome on Android and Safari on Android. I'd say that is all the major players. I'm not going to worry about stuff like Samsung Internet Browser and Opera Mini and Browser, UC Browser for Android. These are the major ones here. They're all lit up in green. And that means we can generally use this feature and not worry about leaving anybody out. Of course, this is a very filtered view. It's not going to be supported in things like IE or on any of these other like one-off little browser things that nobody should be developing these days. Please stop, folks. Please stop. We don't need the little, what are they called? Samsung Internet browsers shipped on our phones. Please stop it. Anyway, then we'll take a look at what this feature is, and we'll take a look at how we can implement something in Blazor with it. So let's jump in and see what the documentation says. So Color Mix is a new function. CSS has functions now. Function notation that takes two color values and returns the result by mixing them in a given color space by a given amount. That's the part that really is important, is this color space. We'll talk about that in a minute. I was hoping that we just give it an amount and it'd be quick and easy, but colors are a lot harder than that. So we have to tell it what color space to actually mix it in. But those things will also come in handy later on. All right, so let's jump over to Blazor REPL. It's going to give us a nice little playground that we can mess around with this new feature in. If you haven't seen Blazor REPL before, Blazor REPL is a what you see is what you get online interactive editor where you can write Blazor code. It's basically an IDE in the browser. Let's move my head out of the way there. And you can write your Blazor code in the left-hand panel, hit run, and see the results in the right-hand panel. There we go. Hello from Blazor REPL. All right. So let's set up a little playground. I want to take and put a couple items on this page. Let's go ahead and do a div, and we'll break this up using a CSS grid. So we'll call this class of grid, and I'm just going to inline a style here, just because this is being edited in the browser in this little Blazor REPL program. So we'll just say style, and we can mess around with some styles in here. If this gets bigger and more complex, we'll move it to a Blazor project in a few minutes and work on it from there. But for now, I just want to hash out some ideas. I really haven't played with this too much. I've heard about the feature for quite some time, and it's changed. The spec is kind of morphed over the last couple of years. But I'm sure we can get the hang of it in a few minutes. So we'll go ahead and open this grid up, and then we'll just say grid. I don't get IntelliSense for CSS here. This is really throwing me off. Give me 1 second here. We will do CSS grid. Column. Just a little bit of documentation here. And this is all I need. We need the inline grid caps. Column start, column end, grid, template, columns is what I was looking for. I always get this one backwards. I do grid column template, and it's template columns. So back over to our Blazor REPL here, and we can say, didn't copy, grid one FR. That should give us 3 columns across. Hit run on there. We won't see anything in the other panel yet. Actually need to drop a couple items in here. We'll just say div a couple times here. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. And hopefully this splits up evenly into 3 columns on the other side, and it didn't, so I wrote this template columns wrong. Let's go back and see what that was again. Grid column, template columns. Did I just, yep. Grid, template columns. No, I didn't do it wrong. So it should be, I didn't put the display grid in there. That's what it is. So we need display grid. And then now we should have a nice little grid with 3 items in it. There we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. So what are you all up to today? Chat room's being a little quiet. Still trying to figure out what I'm doing here. It's all right. It'll all make sense in a minute. All right. So let's go ahead and start with a class here. And on the first box, let's go ahead and make this a color. Let's do this is going to be a red box. All right. And we'll do background red, like that. And we should get, there we go. So we got our red box. And let's do a blue box on the other side. Right now I'm hard coding the colors, but we'll set up some variables for these. If you're not familiar with CSS variables, they are super handy. I've got a nice presentation on all of that stuff, by the way. And we can open that up in a little bit and look at it. All right, there we go. So we've got 2 colors. Now, what I want to do with the middle box here, we'll call this one mixed. And on the mixed column, I want to take the color from column 1, the color from column 2, and blend the colors and make a third dynamic color that is based on the first and third box. This is something we couldn't do in CSS before. We had to have something like SAS in order to make that happen. So this is actually a really big deal because now we can make style, what do you call them? We can make themes, and we can make themes that are dynamic to a certain color palette. And we can also generate color palettes kind of on the fly here. Aztec Consulting, welcome. It's been a while. I haven't seen you around a bit. I haven't been around a bit. I've been really busy. Just got back from Seattle a couple weeks ago. Just starting to get back in the normal. I'm home and I've got content to produce. So hopefully we'll have some more shows here soon. So CSS Color Mix. Let's get back over to the documentation for this one. And the CSS Color Mix takes a couple of values here. So the function is color mix. You're probably having a hard time seeing this. Let me zoom in quite a bit here. It's a function that takes a method, which is going to be, the method is going to be what color space we want to use, and then the colors as parameters. So it will then mix the given colors that we pass in to a new color. So let's take a look at some of their examples really fast. So we can set background color to color mix, and this is using the RGB color space. So it says background color, color mix in sRGB, and then color 1, color 2. We can also set a percentage of that color to be mixed. So let's go ahead and borrow this piece of code. We'll jump back over to Blazor REPL. And we'll say mix in sRGB. We have red, we have blue, and we can rerun this. And look at that, we've got purple. All right. Nice, simple, easy to understand, hopefully. We're just taking two colors and mixing them. There are a whole lot of things that you can do with that color mix function. Like I said, for example, there is a percentage based on that. So if we go over to this, we say 50% of that red color. Make sure your number key is, or number lock is pressed on your keyboard. I don't see a lot of variation on that one. Let's try that again. There we go. So you can blend these colors in as little or as much as you'd like. And hopefully you get the idea there. We're blending in a little bit more of the red color, a little bit at a time, just by adjusting the percentage. That's one of the parameters that you can use there. Some nice examples here on the MSDN site as well. So they're using the color percentage on this. Good old seasonal allergies. Try not to sneeze on camera, but there's only so much you can do this time of year. So we can go 0 to 100%. And this is nice because you can see we get a gradient of colors here, which is awesome because we can build a color palette. So we can take a base color and we can mix that color with white and come up with this nice scale of colors for a color theme. There's other ways to interpret colors as well. I'm not going to get into the details on this because it gets a lot into like color wheels and things. But if you want to take a brief look at what this is doing with all the different color mix types that you can put in here, the hue interpolation method that you can pass in. That's what the official name for that parameter is. Basically, it's taking different types of or different angles of this color wheel. And there's different color patterns you can use too. If we scroll down, there is, I saw a better example earlier. I'm trying to remember where it was. But basically, you've got your color wheel, you've got your color square, you got your color triangle. You can use different types of color wheels to mix your colors together. So there's different modules for that. It's pretty nice stuff to have. If you're a color guru, you can probably go absolutely nuts with this stuff. Let's see, is this the example I was looking for? That is not the one. You dig around here long enough, you'll find the different color wheels and how they're mixed. I saw it earlier. I can't remember exactly where I clicked to find it. So let's do something a little more advanced. Let me find. Let's jump over to Visual Studio. I don't know why I'm having a hard time finding VS on here. Where did you go? Is there an update or something that removed my Visual Studio? There it is, Visual Studio 2022. And then I should have in here a project that I worked on. And if I don't have it, I will just fork it really quick. I don't have it. It's usually on my laptop where I do presentations at conferences. And Visual Studio froze. So that's always nice during a live stream. Have Visual Studio completely lock up on you. While Visual Studio figures out what it's doing, we'll go back to Blazor REPL. I'm going to go ahead and drop this color back to 100%. Run this again, and I will share it with all of you so you can mess around with the code. So I'll copy this link and drop it directly into chat here. No CPU left? No. This computer is not even running a fan right now because it's just none of this is hitting any CPU on it. It's just Visual Studio being Visual Studio and deciding it's not going to work. Not responding. Go away. We'll try again in a minute. It seems odd to add CSS rather than a legit tool like CSS and SAS. That's an interesting observation. CSS is a standard, and SAS and less have kind of, well, not so much less anymore. SAS kind of paved the way for some of the features that people wanted to see added to CSS, but CSS is the place to be for doing modern development in CSS. SAS is kind of starting to hit those sunsetting days, in my opinion. Sound is getting funny. All right. Hopefully the sound is good again. I don't know. I've had a little bit of sound issues here and there. Yeah, CSS is becoming quite the programming language, actually. But let's try Visual Studio again. Give it a second to kind of chill out. Let's do a open. Let's wait for the little spinner to stop spinning first. I don't want to do an update right now. Thank you very much. And there we go. We'll do a clone repository and go over to my GitHub, and we'll grab the project that I wanted to show you. And if I already clone this to this location, click open to find it earlier. Looks like I've already cloned it. So this is a CSS presentation that I give that I keep evolving over time. And every time I find a new CSS feature that I think is handy, I try to add it to the presentation. So, waiting for Visual Studio to catch up here. Let's go ahead and run this. We can walk through what the presentation does. And I can also find a link for that as well and paste that into chat. I dropped the Blazor REPL link in there just a moment ago. Let's go ahead and get this up as well. Trying to remember the path for this. I'll just go directly to the home page. Always forget it's, oh, I can go directly to my name. Okay. And then there is a project in here that I've got up on my screen. CSS for Blazor developers presentation. There you go. This is what I'm working on. There's just various CSS techniques in this presentation. And the app itself is, if I can find the running window, where's it running at? There it is. The app itself is a Blazor app that is the presentation. So it looks like a PowerPoint presentation. It's not. It's actually a Blazor app running in the browser to look like it is PowerPoint. So we got a slide deck here. Talks a little bit about CSS isolation, how to use Sass if you're still into that, how deep selectors work, CSS custom properties. This is something that's going to be super handy here in a minute. We'll check this out. So CSS custom properties is another way to say CSS variables. We could get into the reasons why they called it custom properties. I'd rather not. But the way they work is with this double dash notation. So let's see here. We'll do a little zoom it here. If we want to set a variable in CSS, we use this double dash notation. So we can call any variable name we want here. We'd say double dash foo, and then this is the value we're setting it to. So I'm going to set it to a color. We can then use that and get the variable by getting a property using the var function and passing in the variable that we set earlier. And that will retrieve that color 000, set it to color. So we're going to set the color to black. What's nice is they follow scope. So they follow the rules of CSS and the cascading values. So we can build all sorts of stuff with just the CSS variables, and we can pass them into our Blazor components. We could even do something like, let's go ahead and set the entire theme of the application to dark, right? So we can come up with these color palettes in CSS variables, pass them into our components, theme our apps, quick and easy. We even come up with like a high contrast mode and so on and so forth. It's all very handy stuff. White screen of death there. I think I accidentally went back to the blank page. So that's the presentation bits. So what I don't have in here right now is anything about this color mix function. And I don't know exactly where I might add it yet. So I do have an edit in here. Let's check our CSS or our Git. And I love how it's showing a change on app CSS, but there's nothing different between the two files. 0 changes. So why is that a change in Git? I don't know. So we'll just hit undo here. And I just added automatic theming to that. And it looks like I might not have pushed that up to GitHub yet. I should probably merge that in. Merge into master. And then I can push that to GitHub. So make sure that we're all up to date on the GitHub repo. Then I can create a new branch here, and I could say CSS Color Mix. Now I can safely hack away at my presentation, and we can play around with the CSS Color Mix. Let's jump over to the theme folder first. I am using Sass on this just because it shows folks how to set Sass up, but I'm not really using a lot of the Sass features in it. And you'll notice that I've got a root element here. That is a CSS standard, that root element. And the root element has all of the color variables for my application. One of the things I've always wanted to do with this is create like a palette page or a palette concept and display it on a page. So I've got a couple different colors in here. I've got a primary color that's dark, the primary color itself, and then the contrasting color to it. What I want to eventually do is automate this to generate the colors just based on one color. Let's go ahead and just create a simple page right now. Let's see here. We want to go under the slides. I think agenda is that's one of the first pages there. Where's index at? All right, so index in this has a slide container, and the slide container has slides, and then this is the workflow of the slide deck itself. So let's go ahead and add a new slide here. And we will call this one palette. So we're going to have a palette component here. I've got Jimmy Engstrom's tools installed too. I wonder if this has anything. Just trying to look. I don't see one for creating a component out of that. But let's go over to slides. Probably be under CSS properties here. We'll go ahead and add a new component. And we'll call this one palette. We've got our palette component. And this actually should be CSS props. And I need to namespace my component. Namespace that, save. There we go, save. Simplify this. There we go. And I should be able to run this in my first slide now should be an empty component that I can start hacking around in. There we go, palette. So it doesn't have anything to it. Matter of fact, it looks like it pops out of the theme, or not the theme, but the borders of the application, because I need to put some template stuff in here. So every slide in my system has a content slide component, and it has content. And it depends on what layout we want as well. I may redo this in .NET 8 when we get sections. For now, I'm keeping it in the current version of .NET. But sections would help a lot with some of the templates that I have for this. So if we look at layouts, we have a couple. We have a content slide. We have a transition slide. We have an agenda item slide. We're going to have the standard content slide. For this one, drop over here and make a new content slide, and the title for this one will be using CSS Color. And then this will have content. All right. There. Let's take one more look at that. And there we go. That's our empty slide. So this is my 2-column layout. So I'd have some content here and some aside type of thing there. There's a way to do full screen with this as well. This is all getting into the nuts and bolts of the presentation guts. But let's see here. Let's take a look at one of the full screen ones. There's a parameter on content slide, I think it is. You can do the aside on bottom, I believe. And that'll move it out of my way temporarily. Then what I want to do in here is display a palette. And I'm just going to jump back, I think, to the W3C examples, where they have this one here. I like this one. We'll take that and make our own display with it. So let's borrow this. And then for the palette example, we'll go ahead and add. Do I not have Jimmy's thing on here? Let's add it really quick. It's super handy. I thought I had it on this machine. Maybe I don't. Extensions, manage extensions. Some extensions have been updated. Maybe that's what froze this last time. Blazor extensions. Yeah, this is the Blazor extension. Just helps you write components a little bit faster. We'll go ahead and add that one. I'm going to close Visual Studio and let that update happen. Because I want to add a CSS file to the component that I just created. And the tool that I just installed here is going to make it super easy. They're already pretty super easy, but this makes it just like a one-click thing. And I've got a CSS file for my component. Then we can just start copying some of the examples in and then making it our own. So what I want to do is I want to go into that color that I already have in Visual Studio. My audio is getting robotic again when I have Visual Studio open. Oh, it's fun. This bug is back. So I had a bug prior where if I had Chrome open with StreamYard, my audio would go berserk. And it sounds like now it's doing it with Visual Studio. Let's try a little something here. Let's go ahead and turn off Bluetooth. That can be a problem. So that hopefully, I don't know. I've troubleshooted this to death and it wound up being Chrome, and now I'm having people tell me it's happening outside of Chrome again. So I wanted to add a CSS file. Let's see, extract, that's not it. No, Jimmy showed me how to do this. Palette.razor, there it is, create isolated CSS, boom. So I get a nice little menu for that, and I can just add a file that way. Yeah, there was a bug, Aztec, and like I definitely pinned it down to Chrome. And the last 2 streams I've had, people have told me it's come back. So I don't know if Edge is doing it now, or if there's some other app that just started interfering with my audio again. But let's try turning this on for a minute. Let me know if my audio gets really bad now. I don't want to start over troubleshooting it and break even more things, but let me also bump my volume just in case. Bring that up. Let me know if it gets too high as well. See if that does any better. All right, so this is the example that we got from W3C. And we need the HTML as well. We'll go ahead and copy that over. And we'll drop that in there. I think they may have a little bit more styling to theirs than they're letting on, but we'll take a look and see. Let that spin up. And yeah, there's a little more to their demo, I think. So we're missing something here. Let's see what's happening in the browser itself. So isolation kicks in. We don't have any color being applied for some reason. And I'm not quite sure why. Let's try. Let's see what's going on. Sounds good now? All right, good. Hopefully that was it. Nth child, background color. Let's do a rebuild. And then run it one more time just to make sure. Yeah, there's still something missing here. Let's double check that again. Seems like nothing's being applied here. Where does this margin come from? There's an isolated style being applied with a margin, yet I don't recall putting a margin in there. Huh. The selector doesn't seem to be hitting for some reason. Let's do something super basic to try this out. So in content, we'll just say div class test. Just throw some text in here. And then we can go into our CSS isolation. I just want to make sure it's being applied. little black on white, and go back to there. Look at that. So that made a lot of sense. So I made a change to this, and it was enough, I guess, to get the compiler to finally go, hey, these files changed. Let's actually apply them to the application. Let's try that again. And it looks like it's still working. Hot reload's even picking it up. So, okay, I'll take it. It's working. So the palette thing worked. Got the palette going. Now let's take in one of our colors from the application's color palette. So like I said earlier, if I go into app.css, I've got a couple main colors here. I like to name them and then reuse the names in the actual palette. But I've got this dark orange, a regular orange, a dark blue, and a light blue. And I call them orange peel, orange, denim, and sky blue. And if we go down here, you can see that primary color darker is denim. So that's my dark blue color. If you look at the presentation itself, I don't have it on this page. And when I added this page, I may have broke the presentation bits here. Let's try my agenda page. There you go. You can see the dark blue color on there now. What I want to do is hit that dark blue color and mix it and see if I can get a palette going. So this one is called denim. We're going to go ahead and borrow, or actually we want to use this. This is the application level variable that I use. So if I take that and I replace this color, it needs to be var double dash darker. And we'll actually just do a find replace on pound 34 seed 9 EB. Those are the launch codes for the day. Drop that in. 5 occurrences replaced. Let's see what this looks like. So I save that. Hopefully, okay. Now that's not quite what I want. So I'm mixing it with white. And here's where things get a little weird. So I want to be able to do, I want to make a palette, but I want to adjust it in a way that the colors have some harmony. Now this one, it's really hard to see here. It looks almost like it's making it grayscale. Maybe it's just the darkness of the color. Let's try another color just to see what this looks like. Let's take the darker off of it and just use the primary color. Find, replace. See what kind of effect that has on it. No effect there. We didn't save. And that's a lot like the example we had the first time. That's the light blue it looks like. Let's do one of the orange colors. Let's do secondary color and take a look at it just to kind of get a good idea of what this lightning using white is doing. Primary color, secondary color. What am I doing wrong here? There it goes. There was a piece of white space in there. Try that one. So this is just essentially whitening the color up. So dark that text color doesn't switch. Not sure what you mean, Janescu. So it was hard to see because of the dark color on the text. One thing that'd be nice to see is if we could invert colors. There's some more color functions coming, and I don't know when we're going to get a hold of all of them. There's actually a color inversion one as well. I've seen a lot of demos of really cool stuff you can do with colors, but color mix is about all we've got that's actually standardized right now. But what I'd like to do is be able to like generate theme colors off of this, and a lot of our favorite tools, may not be my favorite tools, but the community's favorite tools have stuff like this built in already. Bootstrap is one, I believe, that has like a theme palette built in. Let's see. This one has, maybe it's, they have it for the grays. I'm trying to find the right screen here. Colors, opacity. So they have it on the gray scale system. Maybe that's a better place to start. So let's start there. So if we wanted a grayscale system, what we normally do, and this is what Bootstrap has, they have all of these variables. And let's see, what did they name theirs? Lost the tab. It was on this window. I always have a bad habit doing that. Visual Studio will spin up an instance. There's what I was looking for, of Edge or Chrome that is isolated in like a sandbox mode. And I always go in there and open up new tabs and search through documentation, and then I close the app and I lose all my documentation I had open. So normally we'd have something like this. These are Sass variables, by the way. If we wanted to convert them to CSS variables, we just need to dash those instead of $sign them. And you've got your grayscale stuff. Like this is your different scales of background color or contrasting dark color, whatever you want. Bluma has colors to invert the color. Does it uses a precompiler though, doesn't it? Because the precompilers like Sass and everything have that color inversion. There may be a way to do it with this, but I'm not sure how. Because there's no like get opposite. It's like give me two colors and then there's an output. So you have to have two known colors, and it doesn't really. You might be able to do something with these HSL transformations that we have here in HSL, mix on the shorter hue, but then you still have two colors. It's still blending them, not contrasting them. Let's see. I don't know if it'll be in here because it's not formal syntax, definition, examples, layout, references, modules. Nope. Colors, CSS colors. Opacity. I saw it in here maybe. Composition and blending. Blend mode, isolation background. There's specifications here, but I don't think they're implemented yet. But there are things, CSS3 color, blend mode, mix mode. Yeah, I can't find it off the top of my head. There's more color functions coming, basically. And there is one that you can just say, give me the inverted color. Color contrast. There it is. See the little experimental thing on there? So color mix just got this taken away. Color contrast. You give it a color. And notice the browser implementation is no across the board. So like we won't be able to do that yet. Still need a preprocessor for that. And that's a shame. But it's coming. It's being spec'd out. There's more color functions on their way. So back to the grayscale example. This is taking black and giving us this scale here, which is essentially what we've got going on in our palette. So what we would do, and I hit the wrong button there. Let's not put this in the main yet. Let's go up here and we'll put this at the top level like this. Just drop it in our component at the root. Color palettes, sites for color palettes. There's some good ones out there. Colorhex.com. I don't know if I've seen that one. There's Adobe Color. Color.adobe.com. This one has good harmonics. I've got a couple palettes saved in here. Let's see if it's in the right account. I have a couple Adobe accounts, so I don't know which one this is. But this one does a pretty good job and lets you save them. It has an extraction tool for images. I think it's free. Yeah, this is, I was messing around with some stuff with Layla one day. This is not my main account. Although it looks like it is. Did they delete my other palettes? Where's my palettes at? This used to be a nice one, but I think it, oh wait, maybe it's under libraries. My library, there we go. Yeah, I have a couple theme color palettes under there. Libraries, they've updated this a lot. So you might recognize some colors here and there. This one is off of like my main stuff. So I use that one. There's some other good tools out there though. Always forget the names of them because they're all kind of little quirky, cute names. Colordesigner.io, is this the other one? Yeah, this one's not bad too. There's a lot of tools out there that'll help you with this. Set up color harmonies and whatnot. They're all pretty cool. I've seen some interesting ones. But we're getting to the point where we can do this stuff in real time in our apps. And this is essentially what the gray scale one does. So we would essentially do this function here, and we would mix. Probably don't want to start with, these are all probably 10%. So it'd be something like that. Then we come down and paste that across, it'd be 20. And this would be all the grays instead of it being 30, 40, and so on. So we could do this in more of a functional way rather than statically typing all of the color values in there the way that it is presented there. And of course 100% is whatever that is. And this would actually get dropped in here. That black. And that would come up with our full grayscale. So we just dynamically created our full grayscale of colors. And then on our palette here, we could come in and we would put, let's see, how can we do this intelligently? So for the first color, we'll say this one is var black, and there we've got IntelliSense now, which is nice. So we could say we'll go with the lightest one there. Why my paste is going crazy. Drop these in, and we'll take like, if that's, let's see, this was 25, do 20 there, 50 here, would be 500, 75 would be about 700, and then of course 100% would be black. That, and then if we rerun that, it should still be running here. Save the component. I broke hot reload somehow. Try this again, hot reload. It's doing that thing again where I made a change and it's not giving me the color palette change. Foreground color should be changing for these things. It is not applying that theme. Inspect again. Oh, it is doing it. Color gray 200, not defined. Color is not defined. Does this need to go? Whoops. Wrong key. Does that need to go first? It wasn't hot reload. It was a coding error this time. And let's see here. So it's trying, no, actually it's, okay, so that is correct. This is incorrect. Gray 100 is not defined. Am I not able, let's throw this in a div. It might be the root thing. It's not letting me use the root namespace here. And I've got no div, so I gotta create some scope here. Try reloading that one more time. There we go. So it did it. So it might have been an issue with that root. Root might not be available at the component level. I thought it was, but apparently it's not. So you can see the grayscale of the text fading with the color of the background as well. And we can define the colors like that. So that's one way to do it. I'll have to practice with this some more and see what I can do as far as generating palette colors. Mixing colors and creating harmonic colors is two completely different things. So this will create lighter and darker shades on the scale of the saturation, I guess. This is desaturating the color when we add white to it. So it's a very handy tool. Like I just showed with the black, we can take black and we can make a whole grayscale out of it. And we could do the same with our primary and secondary colors if that's how we want to mix them. And that can be handy for things like a button. Let's see if we got a button in here. We might be able to come up with some palettes based on that as well. Under components in this, let's see, button, CSS. Let's use quite a bit of variables in here. And we've got a bunch of different states for a button. I'm curious to see. Let's drop one in. Let's drop a button here. And how do I handle my button? I have a text and a CSS class. So we have a button called test. Let's take a look at some of the states on that button. Now I added another component. This one may actually need to be reloaded. Buttons have a lot of moving pieces, so unhandled error. Okie dokie. All I did is put a button there. I don't know how I got an error on a button. Button.razor, is the namespace not in scope for this component or something? I thought it would tell me, or at least not render. Presentation components button. No, it's in scope. How does adding a button make my application crash? Let's see what it says. What does the console read? Does not have a matching property of name child content. Oh, of course. Button text equals test. That explained a lot. Reload the app. Get out of the error mode there. So this one's taking that blue, just straight blue color. Now what happens if I don't know if I'm matching. Yeah, I'm not matching the, what do you call it there? So I need to add attribute splatting to this, or I could just add a parameter. I'll do the parameter for now. We'll add a parameter to it. Bool disabled. Okay. And then up here, we'll go ahead and say at disabled equals disabled. Now let's see what the button looks like if we set a disabled state on it. Does the browser give us anything for free, or is the button rendered exactly the same? We just can't click it. So it could be handy in like just coming up with like a disabled variation if that's something we need to apply. So we'll save that. We'll reload the app. Let's see what this does. So it's disabled, but it doesn't look like it's disabled to me. Let's double check this one. Let's make sure the code updated. Oh, button disabled. So this button is in fact disabled, but it's not really behaving disabled. Let's double check to make sure. Let's give it an on-click event. We'll do like the old school counter, I guess, something like that. Just set up. See if we can interact with it. It should be disabled by the browser, though, and not allowed to interact. Let's see what happens. I'm not displaying the current count. That would help, right? Let's see if we can click this button if it counts. It should not count. Yeah, so it is disabled, but the visual of it is not a disabled button. So what we could do with this color mix is we could go back to our button and we can modify it. So if our button is disabled, we should have button disabled state, and then we can have the background color. The background color is button hover background color primary contrast, like that. And what we could do is come into our palette thing here and borrow this. I'm going to borrow the 50% like that. And what we want is the primary color darker. And we could try to shade the button like that. And that should at least change the color of it. Now, this is an empty button, so this is disabled only. Can we apply? Be button disabled. I'm having a hard time remembering if I can do this or not. We do hovered and disabled at the same time. Did I do that wrong the first time? Okay, there it goes. So that is probably not the best button example, but you maybe get the idea. What other button styles did we have? Maybe that'll help. I think they're all outline buttons. Yeah, I kind of got it. They're all outline buttons. It makes it kind of hard to tell. Did we get a raid? Let me pull up my screen here. Was there a raid? I've got my StreamYard. Oh, okay. Welcome, Thindle. I thought you were already here and there was a raid. It's just Thindle raiding. Hello, folks. Welcome to the show. So we're messing around with a new color function that just hit mainstream adoption across all the browsers called Color Mix. I've got, let's see, do I still have the sample up in Blazor REPL? I do. So this was the first sample that we did. We'll zoom in over here, do a little recap. This is just for display purposes. We're going to display 3 boxes. We've got the red box, the blue box, and in the middle, we've got a mixed box. So we set the background color to red, the background color to blue on these 2 boxes. And then on the mixed box, we're going to set the background color using this new color function in CSS called Color Mix. We're going to mix it in RGB mode. And we're going to mix the red with the blue equally. And if we go over to the running side here, you can see we've got a red box and a blue box where we've applied the CSS color function. We've mixed the red and the blue together to make purple. Okay. So we have the box suffix is unacceptable. I agree. We've got the ability now to do some dynamic coloring, we're finding that it's a little bit more difficult to get the results that we want than I had hoped. But we've got, for example, here, we've taken this orange color, lightened it by 75, 50, 25%, and then completely whited it out. Found it pretty handy just now putting a disabled state around a button. I've got some user experience issues here with this this button, though. It's not the best button. This outline idea looks like it's kind of a pain, but we would probably want to do some other things around setting, like the pointer and yada yada yada. Maybe even taking some of the transitions off of it so it doesn't look like it's an actionable button. Are there dangerous colors? sRGB isn't linear, so mixing might give unexpected results. Yes, we are experimenting anyway, but we don't have to just mix in sRGB. We could also mix things in HSL mode. So there is that as well. We can go play with that if we want to see if there's any noticeable difference here. Let's see what we can do. Let's just capture this the way it is. I'm just going to take a quick screenshot of it. And then we can compare with this with an HSL version if we wanted to do a different mix mode. So right now we have sRGB on everything. Do a find and replace on that. We do HSL. Is it just HSL? And I keep looking at the docs. It's a brand new feature, so I really don't know. There's HSL, and there's a couple ways to do HSL as well. The colors may have to be defined in HSL for that. I don't know if it'll auto convert them before it does the conversion. So let's give that a try. So HSL worked here, but when we re-render, apologize, I have dog barking in the background. It does produce quite a different output. Look at that. So you can see, especially when it gets to about the 50 and 25%, the way the saturation on that is adjusted, much different. So that's why those different color space functions exist, these interpolation methods. So there's a couple of them. And if we go back here real quick, the longer hue interpolation results in an angle midpoint, which taking a longer route. So there's different ways of adjusting the scale of it. And you can see we can do the long way, the short way. So this can get really complicated. You really need to know exactly what you're doing with it. There's some linear gradients using colors. Let's see here. There we go. There's a couple different ways. These are all the same colors, I believe. They're just mixing them in different ways. So this is just standard HSL. This is the increasing, decreasing, longer. It's basically taking different route around the color wheel to mix the colors. So looks like these two, longer and decreasing, named longer, all the same. These two are also the same. The increasing and decreasing is the major two differences there. They're mixing entire gradients on that one. Yeah, they added a bunch of new color options to CSS as well. So if we look, there's polar color spaces. We've got rectangular color spaces. We can use all of these. And the color interpolation method can be any of them. There's lab, XYZ, sRGB linear, HSL, HWB, LCH, etc. So there's a couple different functions that can be used in here to mix these. Yep. So this is going to take some practice to get an idea. It's very complicated. It's an understatement. It's more than just slap on a function and hope it works. But you know, we'll figure these out over time and come up with some pretty cool systems for generating palettes. And I think this has some legs to eliminate some duplicate code and things like that. Predicting the results can be hard unless you really understand color theory. If you understand color theory really well, some of this stuff probably makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure there'll be frameworks and things that get built up around, not even frameworks, just little mini like micro libraries that'll help us generate you know, palettes and things based on a couple colors rather than Yeah. Instead of building all these things by hand, interacting with other tools and things like we talked about earlier. There's a couple of good tools mentioned. So we can do these things through like generators. There's a couple tools that were mentioned. That's not the right one. Color generators. You can use some of these. There's a bunch of them. Here's yet another one. And actually messing around with some of these might give you an idea of how these different color palettes and things work. I wish this one had a little bit more of a preview. This one actually applies it to some UI stuff too, it looks like. Some basic buttons and whatnot. That's pretty neat. Colors.co is another one. Let's give them all the cookies they want. I think this one's a paid tool at some point. But what I'd love to see is like the little mini library that lets you do this right inside of your app. But this one's pretty cool. You can mix those two colors together just by clicking in between them, if you've seen this one before. But this in itself has some complexities to it. Like I've used this before. You say generate method, and then this is where all of those different color theories come into place. Like, do we want a complementary? This is the pro feature that you need to unlock. Complementary, analogous, monochromatic. Right now, I think we're with that color mix function. We're kind of stuck with the monochromatic. But you can do a lot with this tool. But like I said, you got to pay to upgrade this one. But it's pretty neat. You can come in and drop in a color like this, and then like the red and green you mix together. And it even gives you an auto-generated name on some of these. This one has a nice contrast checking tool as well. So, like I said, we should be able to automate this stuff pretty soon. Like, you should be able to come into CSS and say, I want these 4 colors. Give me a couple palettes based on them. Use those in all of your buttons and whatnot. You know, if you look at, what is it, Tailwind has a couple palettes in their thing. We generated a black and white palette. Where's the thing? I don't come here very often. Docs, and then they have great documentation though. Colors, there we go. So we should be able to recreate this pretty soon without a precompiler, by the way. That's really what I mean. Should be able to come in and specify either the mid-range color and get the darker and lighter off of it is probably better. Like get that orange color, deepen it, saturate, desaturate, whatever you want to do. Calculate those colors right out of your palette. But that's all I've got for today, folks. This is the idea. I'll work on it some more, see if I can find out any other cool ideas with it. I like being able to use web standard stuff versus trying to calculate things with a preprocessor, JavaScript, or C#, which in this demo underneath of Let's see, which one is it here? Let's run the app again. There is a spot where I do some color calculations in C#. Go into the agenda slide. You can actually see it in real time. Come on, tab. I can't get a hold of my... Come on. All right. It's not going to work for me. I don't want... Give focus to the right window. Let's go back and comment this guy out. If I go to index HTML, comment out the palette slide, run it again. There you go. Gosh, I don't know why it wasn't giving me focus. There's some code in this slide here controlling scope of CSS variables that does an inverted color, but it doesn't in C#. So if I come in here and change this color, it will invert the text color, which isn't always what you want either for the contrasting color. It does its best to figure out the contrasting color. It's not always the most readable thing, but it does a better job than nothing. So if you look, I'm picking one color here, but the text color is changing as well. So if you look at the code for this, that is on the slide with which one was that? These go by, okay, controlling scope. That one is the scope slide. When you select a color, it's data bound, and then it runs this invert color function, which this one does. The color stuff is really annoying to work with. So the first thing you have to do is hack the £sign off of the color and replace it with a double F because it's in hexadecimal. Then you have to convert this this value to a 32-bit integer with base 16, and then you have to shift it to a full full integer or full 16-bit, 32-bit value. When you shift it, you get the inverted color from it. So it's, oops. This goes back to like shift register type stuff. We're going to shift the values, get the opposite from it, invert that value, and then it gets inverted or replaced back. We put the $sign back on, string interpolate it. We have to use this toString X formatter. Otherwise, bitwise operations. If you don't use toString X, it comes out all wonky and doesn't work. This took a while to figure out. Like, I just want a CSS thing that I can pass a color to and say, give me the inverted color for it. Give me the contrasting color for it. It's a smart thing that doesn't make sense unless you think about it. Yeah, it's simple unless you want to get into the complexities of how it really works. I think that's one way to say it. Yeah, toString will give you we'll give you a long decimal representation to it, not the hexadecimal. You want the hex. So this little function does it though. You just run it through here, you get the opposite. I wish this was a browser standard thing. And those allergies kicking in are telling me it is time to end the Blazor Power Hour. This was fun. Again, I'll mess around with this stuff when I get some spare time again. See what I can do with it. See if I can make it a useful tool for me. And it will end up getting integrated into that slide deck. If you want to find the slide deck I just showed, it is CSS for Blazor developers. If you Google it, you will find a video presentation that goes with it on what's it called? What is the big event? .net Conf. Yeah, that one. .net Conf. Where can you reach my boss? So you know my boss by now, Thindle. It's Sarah Fatz, and she's absolutely amazing. And you can find her easily everywhere on the web. So you've probably seen her on stream. Yeah, Sarah's fantastic. Couldn't ask for a better boss. So please reach out to her. Tell her how amazing she is. Ed Power Hour. We covered a little more CSS than we did Blazor today, didn't we? It's going to be the allergy power hour. I'm just like sneezing like crazy today. Like, I think my own garden is partially to blame. Like, there's so much tomato pollen, like, in my backyard right now. I've got to start making some spaghetti sauce or something. I got tomatoes growing out of every crack in my backyard. Thanks for hanging out. See you guys soon.